Hello, and welcome to the 2023-2024 February DAC training on the Kentucky Summative Assessments. My name is Lisa Jett. I am a program consultant in the Office of Assessment Accountability. In this training, Melissa Chandler and I will be presenting information on resources to assist you in the administration of the Kentucky Summative Assessment this spring. This training is one in a series of recorded trainings to prepare DACs and BACs for the upcoming Spring State Test Administration. As a result of overwhelmingly positive feedback on the recorded trainings last year, OAA is continuing to provide pre-recorded trainings in advance of scheduled question and answer sessions. In this training, we will review the Kentucky Summative Assessments, including scheduling, test administration, Pearson Access Next, or PAN, operational test details, and KSA administration details. Let's begin with the Kentucky Summative Assessment, or KSA. Kentucky students take the Kentucky Summative Assessments, KSA, to meet federal and state testing requirements. The Kentucky Summative Assessments are developed by Kentucky teachers and align with the Kentucky Academic Standards, KAS, in each content area. All students in grades 3 through 8, 10, and 11, including those with disabilities, will take the KSA. This includes students who are retained, taking a supplemental year, students who move within the state during testing, and students with minor medical emergencies. If the student is moving from out of state and is not present on the first day of the testing window, they are not required to test. There are a few exceptions for the KSA resulting in not taking the Kentucky Summative Assessment. This includes, but is not limited to, students in alternate assessment and students approved with medical non-participation requests. For those not required to test, Infinite Campus needs to reflect the reason the student is not testing. For example, if a student is participating in the alternate assessment, it can be marked appropriately in Infinite Campus. The Kentucky Summative Assessment assesses students in reading, mathematics, science, social studies, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing. The grades in which each content or indicator is assessed is displayed on this slide. Every student is expected to complete the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey prior to the first content area. Let's take a moment to discuss scheduling. A good resource to help design testing schedules is the KSA Item Types and Times chart. Here is a portion of the Item Types and Times chart that is available in the February DAC Training Google folder. You can also access this document using the link provided on the previous KSA Resources page. As you can see, the chart is divided by grade level, content area with an estimated time, forms, parts, number of questions, and item types. Item types will vary by forms. Continuing from last year, reading, mathematics, and social studies all have two. Students showing continued progress are allowed to continue testing when the recommended time has expired. If students are not diligently working once the recommended time has expired, cannot continue. If students complete the assessment before the recommended time has expired, you do not have to continue testing. Test and makeup sessions may be completed within the last 14 days of instruction. OAA recommends testing to start as early in the 14-day testing window as possible. Initial in-person testing should be completed in content order. Reading, mathematics, science, social studies, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing. Multiple contents may be administered on the same day. This is a change from 2023. As a reminder, each test section started must be completed by the end of the day. Remember to follow the administration code guidelines for test security. Follow testing policies in the guidance documents and test administration manual. Let's take a moment to look at the makeup schedule. Makeup sessions may be completed during the 14-day testing window. Content tests may be combined during makeup sessions. Schedule makeup sessions as soon as reasonably possible. And seating charts are required for makeup sessions. New this year, Pearson has developed guidance on an override that would allow students to test Part B of a content area with their peers, even though they missed Part A. For more information on this process, please email DAC info, and we will provide Pearson's guidance for the override process. Estimated test times are available for each content test. And continuation from last year, students showing continued progress are allowed to work on the KSA past the recommended time. This occurrence will need to be recorded and kept at the school level. Pearson provides recommended testing times for each content area. Students are permitted to work beyond the recommended times as long as they are diligently working. Students with IEPs, 504 plans, or PSP that specify extended time are permitted by law to follow the time provided in their plan. Extended time is limited to time and a half or double time. For example, if standard time is 30 minutes and a student is allowed time and a half, then after the student requests to use extended time, the student would be given an additional 15 minutes, half of the original 30 minutes. After hours requests will need to be sent to kde@dacinfo@education.ky.gov. Pearson will require the following information to process the request: the district and school name, grade level, session name, and content. You may also take a screenshot of the PAN session and send it to DAC info along with the after hours request. KDE will then share the request with Pearson. Homebound students and proctors can meet at off-site destinations, including the home setting, to complete the KSA if students are not able to test at a school or district facility. The testing schedule in the off-site location may differ from the regular testing schedule. However, the order of the content tests must still be followed: reading, mathematics, science, social studies, editing mechanics, and on-demand writing, with the Quality of School Climate Safety Survey being administered first. The request will need to be approved by OAA leadership. All testing environments where a test will be administered should follow local district safety protocols, and test security must be maintained at all times. The Office of Assessment Accountability would like to give you a bit of information on virtual students, although the guidance on virtual students has not changed. These students must be tested in person at a district location. If that is not possible, an off-site request needs to be submitted to the Office of Assessment Accountability through DAC info for approval. Let's take a moment to review the data in Pearson Access Next. Please ensure that Infinite Campus is updated and current as of March 15 in preparation for the student data file KDE will provide to Pearson on March 18. Any student enrolled after the data extraction will need to be manually added. Let's take a few moments to talk about Pearson Access Next, or PAN. Here are some resources for Pearson Access Next: a PAN user guide, TestNav 8 online user guide, training site, practice test and TestNav 8 Kentucky tutorial, PAN training modules. These can be found at the link below. Preparing test sessions. The number of test sessions is a local decision. Students will be preloaded into PAN. DACs or BACs must create test sessions. Students must be placed in the test sessions. Students will take operational assessments in TestNav, Pearson's online testing program. Create test sessions beginning March 25th in PAN. When planning test sessions, Please keep in mind each session must be finished by the end of the school day. Do not start a session with a student if there's a possibility that that student or students may not finish the session before the end of the school day. When testing students, testing must be given in order. The Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey, Reading, Mathematics, Science, Social Studies, Editing and Mechanics, and On-Demand Writing. Flexibility is offered for makeup sessions. For example, if a student was absent for the reading test and returns on the next day for the next session, they may complete the scheduled session for that day and then proceed to take the reading test as a makeup session. Upon logging into a content test, the student will be asked to accept the honor code prior to entering the seal code. Students must agree to the honor code before moving forward with the test. Here are some reminders for students. Review with students the administration code rules around the use of electronic devices. Schools should have policies in place regarding the use of cell phones during the administration. Social media of all types, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and email, are not secure, and any inappropriate posting can lead to disciplinary issues. All of the social media and electronic policies should be reviewed before testing to prevent possible allegations. Next, Melissa is going to walk you through the operational test details. Melissa?
Thanks, Lisa, and hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Chandler, and I'm a consultant in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. I'm going to take us through the details of the 2024 operational assessment, and then I'll share important information related to the KSA administration. And finally, I'll provide resources for 2024. The content areas that make up the spring 2024 assessment are reading, mathematics, science, social studies, editing and mechanics, and on-demand writing. Keep in mind that prior to administering any of the content areas, the Quality of School Climate Safety Survey has to be given first, so we'll start there. The Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey, or QSCS as I'll refer to it, uses perception data that measures insight into the school environment. The Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey contains two forms, grades 3 through 5 and grade 6 through high school. Each form contains 27 statements for which students will be prompted to respond whether they strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. The QSCS is administered prior to the first content assessment for KSA. So for grades 3 through 8 and 10, the QSCS comes before the reading assessment. For grade 11, the QSCS comes before the science assessment, which is their first content area. Unlike the content tests, the QSCS is not a sealed test, so students will only receive a test ticket and not a seal code for this assessment. The survey takes about 20 minutes to complete, and there's no additional rosters that BACs or DACs will need to create for the QSCS. Instead, the KSA and AKSA rosters do include the Quality of School Climate and Safety Survey. And one recommendation I'll make here is to consider allowing third grade students to take only the QSCS on the initial testing day, rather than take both the QSCS and reading together on that first day. Taking that QSCS as the only session during the initial testing day will allow those younger students to practice navigating the TestNav system, and it will also allow test administrators to work out any potential logistics issues. Now let's take a look at reading, our first content area. Reading is assessed in grades 3 through 8 and 10. There will be two seal codes associated with reading, one for Part A and one for Part B, and students will have an estimated time of 120 to 140 minutes to complete both parts together. There are 4 to 6 forms that will make up the reading test, and the questions will be comprised of multiple choice, multiple select, technology enhanced, short answer, and extended response. The only exception to this is for our third grade students, and they will not have extended response. The exact number of items and question types will vary slightly across the grades, so be sure to refer to the 2024 KSA testing items and times chart, which is linked in this PowerPoint for those grade level details. Mathematics is assessed in grades 3 through 8 and 10. Math is tested in 2 sessions. So there will be 2 seal codes, one for part A and one for part B, and students will have an estimated time of 120 minutes to complete both parts. Math part A is a non-calculator session, and Math part B does have the calculator tool enabled. There are between 7 and 10 forms that make up the math test, and questions will be comprised of multiple choice, multiple select, technology enhanced, short answer, and extended response. And again, like reading, third graders will not have extended response. I want to spend just a few minutes here to talk about the tools and resources available within the mathematics portion of the assessment. Math reference sheets are no longer provided. However, the formulas are embedded in TestNav within specific assessment items. And for students who are taking a printed test, those formulas will also be included in the print material. Similarly, rulers and protractors are available in the TestNav system during testing, and the printed tests will include those resources. Let's take a look at an example of a question that has an embedded formula. This example was taken from the test prep page in the Kentucky portal, so this is not a secure item, but we can use it to see what students will see during the administration. Figure 1 shows the supporting item details that will be displayed on the Information tab. Then in Figure 2, we see the formulas that the student can access under the Formulas tab. So students have the ability to toggle back and forth between those tabs to access information that they need. And now let's talk about calculators. Desmos calculators will be available for students to use within TestNav. There are 3 calculators available: the 4-function, the scientific, and graphing. Students will have access to a specific calculator based upon their grade. Elementary will have access to the 4-function calculator. Middle grades will have access to the scientific calculator, and high school will have access to the graphing calculator. And you'll see the note here that students taking the science assessment at grade 11 will have use of the scientific calculator for that. Just as a reminder, students will only be able to access the online calculator during Part B of the mathematics assessment. For specific details of calculator use, please reference the calculator policy, which we've linked on this slide. And then in addition, the Desmos practice test mode calculator is also linked here. This is provided to allow students practice with the calculator that they'll be expected to use in TestNav prior to the administration. Science is assessed in grades 4, 7, and 11, and this test has only 1 session with 90 minutes estimated for completion. There are 2 forms that make up the science test, and the questions will be comprised of multiple choice, multiple select, and extended response. Social studies is assessed in grades 5, 8, and 11 with 2 sessions. So there will be 2 seal codes, one for part A and one for part B, and students will have an estimated time of 120 minutes to complete both parts. There are 10 forms that make up the social studies test, and questions will be comprised of multiple choice, multiple select, technology enhanced, short answer, and extended response. Editing and mechanics is assessed in grades 5, 8, and 11, and this test has only 1 session with 45 minutes estimated for completion. There are 2 forms that make up this editing and mechanics test, and questions will be comprised of multiple choice, multiple select, and short answer. The last tested content area is on-demand writing. On-demand is assessed at grades 5, 8, and 11. Grade 5 will be asked to write an opinion piece, and grades 8 and 11 will write argumentative pieces. The on-demand is comprised of 1 passage-based prompt with 1 seal code, And students will have an estimated time of 90 minutes for completion. And there are 4 forms this year. Students will have access to a dictionary and thesaurus within TestNav, along with use of the notepad tool. Additionally, scratch paper can be used in place of the notepad tool if that is the student's preference. In the unlikely event that a student is unable to access the dictionary and thesaurus online during the on-demand writing, a paper copy of the dictionary or thesaurus can be provided. So we've covered the operational test details. So now let's review a bit of additional KSA administration information. In this section, we'll cover seating charts, accommodations, tips for online testing, technology, school visits, and then we'll look at some resources. This is a screenshot of the 2024 KSA Important Dates document. This resource has been developed by Pearson and is available on our KSA webpage, as well as the test administration manual. Seating charts for both groups and individuals are required for the KSA administration. The seating chart should reflect students and adults that are in the testing room at the time of administration. It is acceptable to use a master seating chart for multiple sessions, as long as the date is marked for each session and the seating arrangement and room location do not change. Links are provided on this slide for seating chart templates, and customized charts can be created if that's preferred. After the test administration, the BAC or DAC will collect and maintain all of these seating charts for at least 12 months, either at the school or district level. Please remember that all instructional materials on walls, workstations, or anywhere throughout the classroom must be removed or covered in areas where students will be testing. Motivational materials can remain up, such as posters with words of encouragement, but any material that could provide a testing advantage must be removed or covered prior to the first day of testing. Non-participation and emergency forms are completed as needed, and I have linked both forms here on this slide. Medical non-participation requests must be made in SDRR, and those requests may be for either an individual content test or the entirety of the test. Now, some of the reasons a medical non-participation may be requested are listed here. And you'll notice that a medical non-participation cannot be requested based solely on a handicapping condition, nor can homebound instruction be the basis for the request. An emergency form would be completed if the student had a medical emergency, but accommodations could still be provided to allow the student to test. So examples would include broken glasses or a recent hand surgery that would limit a student's ability to type. There are paper forms for both non-participation and emergencies that can be kept at the district level. Those would just be kept to show what was done and any necessary information for the medical non-participation or for the emergency. We're now going to do just a quick review of accommodations. This slide provides a list of accommodations that may be provided to students based on an IEP, a 504, or a PSP. I won't read this list in its entirety because Kristen will go into much greater detail during the accommodations specific training. For questions related to accommodations, please refer to the TAM, the Test Administration Manual, as well as the KDE Online Testing Toolbox, because that will give policies, accommodation and technology guides, as well as general tips and best practices. I do want to share that 2 accommodated kits are available for students for the 2024 KSA Spring Administration. Those are Braille and large print kits. They will be available for ordering when the PAN window opens in March. For both of these kits, as well as the online text-to-speech sessions, Form 1 is the testing form that will be used. So for these kits, they come with all the testing materials that are needed, including the instructions for return shipping. So the only resource that would not be provided in these kits is a calculator, and students will be able to use an approved calculator per the KDE calculator policy. Here, I'd like to take just a few minutes and give some tips for online testing. With online testing, preparation really is key. You'll want to prepare students for online testing through the use of available practice tests and tutorials, and those can be found on the Kentucky portal on the KDE website, and I've linked that here in the slide. You'll want to ensure that your staff are trained for test monitoring and that test security is maintained at all times. You'll want to have technology staff available for any troubleshooting during the administration. And then test tickets should be printed prior to the day of testing, but do keep in mind that test tickets are secure materials, so they should be securely stored and securely destroyed after the testing window is complete. We are also still encouraging our proctor test tickets to be printed on a different color paper. This is simply to ensure that a student who is testing in a one-to-one environment or in a small group doesn't attempt to log in to the test with a proctor test ticket. If that happens, they may take the whole test and it will not be saved. So in order to prevent that from happening, we're encouraging that those proctor test tickets are printed on a different color, and hopefully that will help proctors and students distinguish student test tickets from proctor test tickets. Let's turn our attention to the technology aspect of online testing. PAN and TestNav products are updated regularly, so technology and testing staff should ensure that all testing devices have the most updated versions prior to the start of testing. TestNav is compatible with a variety of devices and operating systems, and so for a full list of those, you can visit the Kentucky Pearson Technology Setup page, which we've linked here on this slide. That same link also offers several technology user guides and guidelines for technology use within TestNav. On these next few slides, I just want to share some information about software programs and applications that are likely installed on your testing devices that can interfere with the TestNav system. We'll start here with GameBar. GameBar is a software program that's included in some recent versions of Windows. And the program allows users to take screenshots and record and broadcast video games. It's often used by students. If this is enabled on the device, it will cause TestNav to shut down. So each time your devices are updated, this feature will have to be disabled again. So even if you have disabled GameBar in the past, you will still need to double check that all of those devices still have GameBar disabled. I've linked the directions to disable a GameBar here on this slide. Siri is another app that most of us are familiar with on Apple devices. Like GameBar, Siri will need to be disabled on the testing devices each time the device gets an upgraded operating system. And finally, Grammarly is an application that isn't as widely known as GameBar or Siri, but it is a downloadable cloud-based extension that runs in the background of the device's operating system. It's essentially a typing assistant that reviews and corrects spelling, punctuation, and grammar. And like GameBar and Siri, the application must be disabled before testing, and the steps to do that are linked here in this slide. Moving away from technology, I want to share a bit of information about school visits during the KSA administration. Again, this year, the Office of Assessment and Accountability will be conducting both in-person and virtual spring monitoring visits. Schools and districts are chosen both randomly and purposefully from each region. When a school is chosen, the district assessment coordinator will receive a call from an OAA member prior to the visit, about 30 minutes before we get there. During the visit, school staff, including the BAC, the building administrator, and the DAC, if they are available, will be asked some questions and asked to provide some testing documentation. In addition, OAA may also want to see the testing storage area and some of the testing rooms. I've linked the site visit survey questions here on this slide. These questions are from the spring 2023 administration. The 2024 questions are under review and will be available soon, but the changes are very minimal. So this link will give you a good idea of what to expect in a monitoring visit. Let's take a few minutes now to talk about our 2024 KSA resources that are available. A new resource for 2024 is the KSA Roadmap to Success. This resource was developed based on feedback that DACs really wanted to have a one-stop shop for tasks to be completed before, during, and after the KSA administration. So that's what we've tried to do here. It is essentially a checklist that includes all the links you will need for completing tasks. But do keep in mind that this is simply a resource, and it should not be used as a substitute for participating in trainings or reading the test administration manual. Here we have all of the KSA resources that are available, and including the KDE website and Kentucky Pearson portal. We've got the items and times chart that we spoke about earlier, along with the TAM and the scripts. The practice tests and tutorials are also linked here. The yellow stars denote new resources for 2024, including that KSA Roadmap to Success that we just discussed, along with the 2024 released items. On these last slides, I'm going to provide some contact information and additional information about our upcoming February DAC Q&A sessions. I'll start here with Pearson Support, their client services. The contact hours and information are listed here if you need technical assistance with TestNav or PAN. This is a good time to note that Pearson is our current 2024 KSA vendor, but KDE will soon begin the request for proposal process, RFP process, for a KSA contract vendor. Our current contract with Pearson will end on June 30th, 2024, and OAA will inform districts when a KSA vendor decision is made. The dates and locations for the February DAC Q&A sessions are listed here. The Frankfurt session on February 5th is a live session with no virtual options. However, the Q&A in Ashland and Eddyville, they both do have live and virtual options to accommodate individual needs and preferences. Here we have an agenda for the Q&A sessions. As the note states, the sessions will follow the same topics and time frame at each location. We will follow the agenda, but once an agenda item has no additional questions, we'll go on and move on to the next topic. So if you're planning to attend, you should just plan to be present for the entire meeting so you don't miss anything. Next, all of our recorded DAC trainings for spring 2024 are accessible and available for download on the Meetings and Trainings webpage, which is linked here on this slide. Please review all the pertinent training videos prior to the Q&A sessions in February, because at that time we will not include any training on anything that we've already covered in these recordings. This concludes the Kentucky Summative Assessment Training. If you have any questions for me or for Lisa or any of the Division of Assessment and Accountability support team, please contact us at 502-564-4394 or by email at dacinfo@education.ky.gov. Thanks for watching.